cute. I asked him, you know, the batteries, how do you keep the battery last as long as possible? Because I can't plug it in. It won't work when it's plugged in. And they said, well, just close the screen when you're recording. You would close the screen, it turns off. It's interesting. There's no on button on this thing. This is a child of the 80s. I got the camera in the box. I'm like, sweet! And I open it. I'm like, how's the on button? It doesn't have an on button. You pull the screen open and it makes that pretty little sound. And then it's on. Just so you know, if you buy a video camera, there's no buttons anymore. Or there's one button, start and stop. Anyway, Ernie's a better student. Real quick, a quick show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Stands to reason the rest of you say Bert's the better student? Somebody said Bert was, right? I thought so. A couple of you. Maybe one? Okay, one. Now one vote for Bert! Anybody say we can't decide? Maybe we can't make a call on them? Okay, there we go. It's actually 3. Either Bert, Ernie, or neither is the better, because they're both the same. How are you guys defining better?
More consistent.
Oh, okay. So here we go. This is Nick, right? Yes? Nick says consistency is going to be defined as better. So therefore, Ernie's better because he's more consistent than Bert. Okay, so let's look at put this more consistent. The reason I pick on definitions so much is if you don't, when I use a word like better, when you use a word like better, I mean, what does better mean? Does anybody say better was higher average? Higher overall numerical average? Is that where your gut went immediately when I asked you who's the better student? Your gut probably went right to who's got the higher average. No, Heidi said no, I did not do that, but a couple of you are nodding yes. So those of you that said, okay, the higher average is the better student, what did you discover? They have the same average. They have the same average. Ernie's X bar is,
81.
Yeah, it is 81, isn't it? I'm going to trust you guys that so is Bert's. They both have an average of 81. If you sum up their test scores and divide by 5, or if you share points, right? Think about it. I mean, Bert 10th, that's 61. But just take 20 of these 100 points and give it to that 61. Now that's an 80 and that's an 81. Hot damn, that's not so bad anymore. You see what I'm getting at? And if you share points, they all share so that all 5 tests are 81. And it ends up being pretty nice that way. Good. Did you calculate all 3 measures? Well, I guess there's no mode, is there? What about the medians? What are the medians on these two fine young gentlemen?
81 and 82.
81, 82? Looks like Ernie's is the 81, it looks like, yeah? And Bert's is the 82. So it's really hard to decide who's better by median, because by geographic middle, they're also the same. They're also the same. I used a phrase in class last time, and I didn't explain it very well. This will be on your take-home exam, so I'll explain it in depth there too, using Excel. But there's also an average called a trimmed average or a trimmed mean. And like I said, you don't have to memorize this right now because it'll be on your take-home exam, and with that you'll have plenty of time to work through it and plenty of time to learn it. What you do with a trimmed mean, has anybody ever heard this before, this phrase before, a trimmed mean or a trimmed average? No, okay. What you do is you look at a set of data and you say, okay, certain data points affect averages in unexpected ways. Remember what those data points are called from last week? Very nice, Danny, outliers. If you have outliers, they can pull the average in one direction or the other depending on the extremity of the outliers. It doesn't look like Ernie has any. It sure looks like Bert might have 1 or 2 or even more. I mean, it depends on what you... So what you can do to kind of mitigate the effect of outliers is do what's called calculate a trimmed mean, which is pick a certain number of data points to throw off the top and the bottom. How many of you have been in a class where somebody throws out the lowest exam grade or lowest quiz grade? Some of you? Yeah. Technically speaking, you should also throw out the highest and re-average the middle. Technically speaking, statistically, because if you just throw out the lowest, you're actually kind of creating an asymmetry in the distribution. So if you trim, you should trim the top and the bottom off. So I'll do a trimmed X bar where I chop the bottom and top values off for both of them. So we're going to do a trim mean for Ernie, so cut out his 83 and his 79, and it's still going to be 81. If you add those 3 up and share it, it's still 81, isn't it? Right, because he gives 1 to the 80, and then it's 81. Yeah, it's still 81. Now, in your take home, we'll teach you about like what percent to trim, because it's a little silly with a sample set of 5. That's actually a 20% trimmed mean because you've cut off the top and bottom 20% of the data. It's a little extravagant. Usually you cut like 5% off, but you can't cut 5%, there's only 5 data points. Because each one is 1/20, is 1/5. What would Bert's trimmed mean be? 82? Yeah, we'd have to cut off the 100 and cut the 61, right? And then we'd have to do some sharing in here. Let's think about this. If I give the, let's take 14 of these away to make this an 80. And if I give 14 to him, he turns into 82. 82, 82, 80. Is it 81 again?
Yeah.
Am I doing that right? 81? Yeah. Check my math on that. I think it's going to be 81 again.
81.3.
0.3? Oh, good. I missed something somewhere. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that. But arguably the same trimmed mean, which means what about Bert's outliers? If they are indeed outliers, are they high? Are they low? Are they both? They're both high and low. There's a high one and a low one if they were outliers. The high one is as far above average as the low one is below. So by throwing them out, I mean, you think about it like if you're balancing a very, very wide pole on your finger with weights on it and somebody takes this weight off, the pole's going to crash this way. But if they then take this weight off the end, it's going to go right back into balance again. That's essentially what the trimmed mean for Bert just did. Well, the hell. I can see now why some of you voted that they're the same student. Because, look, they're the same student. If you've defined better as average, they are the same student. Yes? But, Nick, you did not. You chose to define better as consistency. All right. Here's what I want from you guys right now. I want you to run with Nick's definition. I want you to run with Nick's. Oh, actually, before we do that, who said Joe? Joe, you said Bert's the better student.
Yeah.
Why did you pick Bert? Just out of curiosity.
Only because he had a higher median.
Oh, you actually used the measures center and you went with literally 82's higher than you. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. Good for you. No, good for you. And I'm up here saying that they're the same student. I'm waving my hands over this thing and going, oh, they're the same. I'm coming at it statistically. Essentially, nothing is jumping out like 80, 80, 80, 80, 60, 80. They're all coming in really close within 1% of each other. So I love what you said, and I would totally respect that and give you full credit on an assessment if I asked you for your vote. Because your vote has a basis behind it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to agree with mine. Doesn't have to agree with mine. Love it. Here's what I want from the rest of us. I want us all to use Nick's definition of better as more consistent. And for that matter, Bert would then be less consistent. And I want you to come up with a way of measuring that right now. Make up a new measure for me. You know when I say, how are they doing on average? We immediately launch into bop, 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 bop. We immediately have all these measures in our back of our minds. I want you guys to think up your own measure of consistency. Okay? Just take a few minutes right now, talk to each other, come up with a way to measure consistency. I'm curious to hear what you come up with. Because this is not the most intuitive idea, where we've never talked about this before. So come up with your own idea of consistency, and then we'll regroup. Yeah? Good.